I get itchier staring at the wall of your garage or the back of the pool house, trying to decide whether to invest in a whole house chlorination system or keep dosing chlorine by hand. The fear of throwing away money on a piece of equipment that ends up collecting dust, or worse, messing up your water chemistry, is real. You want something that actually works for a big pool, doesn't turn maintenance into a full-time job, and gives you confidence that you're not over or under-chlorinating. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Pentair Plus60 with Power Center is pitched as the answer for anyone with a pool that tips the scales at up to 60,000 gallons. That's roughly the size of many municipal or community pools, and certainly bigger than the average residential backyard oasis. If you're in that large pool bracket, the first question is whether the system's capacity actually translates into everyday convenience, and whether the price point makes sense compared to the alternatives: manual chlorine feeders, tablet dispensers, or even a professional service contract. Let's start with the basics of how this setup works. The IntelliChlor Plus design is modular, meaning the chlorinator unit plugs into a power center that can be wired for either 110-volt or 220-volt service. In practice, that flexibility lets you match the system to the existing electrical layout of your home or pool house without having to hire an electrician for a custom solution. For most owners, the 220-volt option is the sweet spot because it provides a steadier power flow, which can be important when you're running a high-capacity chlorinator continuously. If you're limited to a standard 110-volt circuit, the system still functions, but you may notice the pump's motor humming a little louder as it works harder to keep up with the chlorine production rate. Now, imagine you own a 55,000-gallon in-ground pool that you use for family gatherings and weekend swim lessons. Before you bought the Plus60, you were juggling a bucket of granular chlorine every few days, timing each addition to keep the residual levels in the sweet spot. Not only was that messy, but you also had to keep a close eye on the test strips to avoid spikes that could irritate skin or damage pool equipment. After installing the Pentair system, the process shifted from manual to set and forget. You set the desired chlorine residual on the power center's control panel, and the system automatically meters the correct amount of chlorine into the water flow. The result is a consistently stable residual, which you can still verify with a test kit, but you're no longer guessing. One of the biggest strengths people notice with this generation of IntelliChlor is serviceability. Because the chlorinator is a drop-in replacement for the first-generation models, if you already have an older Pentair unit, you can swap it out without rewiring the entire plumbing harness. The modular design also means that if a sensor or valve fails, you can replace that specific module without sending the whole system back to the factory. In real-world terms, that translates to less downtime and a lower chance of a costly service call. The 4.5-star rating from over 100 reviewers hints that the majority of owners are seeing that reliability play out in their own backyards. That said, the system isn't without its trade-offs. The biggest hidden cost is the initial installation. While the unit itself is engineered to be plug-and-play, you still need a professional to hook it up to your pool's circulation system, ensure the proper flow rate, and verify the electrical connections. For a DI-oriented homeowner, that can add a few $100s to the total outlay. Additionally, the chlorinator's algorithm assumes a fairly constant flow through the filter. If you run a variable speed pump that frequently changes speeds, you may need to fine-tune the settings more often than you'd like. Some owners have reported a slight learning curve when calibrating the residual level after the first few weeks, especially if their pool experiences heavy rain or high bather load. Who should buy this? If your pool sits in the 40,000 to 60,000 gallon range, you're likely spending a significant amount of time and money on chlorine already. The Plus60 pays for itself by eliminating the need for bulk chlorine purchases and the labor of manual dosing. It also makes sense if you're running a commercial or semi-commercial pool where consistent water chemistry is a regulatory requirement. Automated dosing removes the human error factor that can lead to citations. Lastly, if you already have a Pentair filtration system, the integration is seamless. The same brand ecosystem means fewer compatibility headaches. Who should skip it? If your pool is under 20,000 gallons, you're probably better off with a smaller, less expensive chlorinator or a simple floating dispenser. The upfront cost of the Plus60, combined with professional installation, can be overkill for a modest backyard pool. Also, if you're on a tight budget and can't afford the installation expense, the return on investment stretches out longer. Finally, owners who prefer a completely hands-off approach where a pool service company does all the chemistry might find the system redundant.